Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Get Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Brennan Wiersma. Today I have probably the real estate investor with the coolest name and most perfect name for real estate. Goes by, or his name is Rich Wonders, and he does some cool things in real estate. I'm excited to get into all the details. Just went to your mastermind event a couple days ago, played some paintball, met some really cool people. I really like what you're building, and yeah, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Awesome, dude. I'm so glad you reached out, man. You're very cool. I love your energy. I love like young, ambitious, hungry. I love it, man. I love it. I love what you're doing too, just spreading value. I remember you told me you read the book Think and Grow Rich, and we're like door knocking like houses in like nice neighborhoods, just looking to meet successful people. Like, I think that's the coolest thing, bro.
Thanks. I really appreciate it, and got me on a podcast with you, so that was worth it.
That's awesome, dude. It's my pleasure, man. I'm glad to talk to you.
So let's just start off with how did you get into real estate, and where's that led to? What's your story with the real estate world?
Yeah. So I started real estate about 4 years ago. I got into sales about 9 years before that. And I kind of stumbled into it. I'd always been a hustler. I actually worked at a recording studio before I started sales. But I guess the long and short version is the recording studio thing. I did that for a couple years. Some twists and turns in life happened. I was in my mid-20s, and I found myself basically sleeping on the floor of the recording studio. I'd broken up with my then girlfriend I was living with. I had lost my car. I had no money, and I was like, in effect, like kind of homeless, like sleeping on the floor at night, getting out of there during, before everybody came in the morning, and then showing back up for work. And then, I'd work through the night as long as I could. I'd catch a couple hours, and then like I'd start the day again.
Wow.
And basically, I had a friend that took me in, let me sleep on this floor. I needed a job. I tried writing that out, trying to make the studio thing work, but I just kind of saw like I wasn't, MTV wasn't calling me. The major record labels weren't beating down my door with $1 million checks. And I was like, hey, I need to get a job. Got answered ad on Craigslist. Found out eventually it was selling Kirby vacuums door to door. So that's why that's why I have such a respect for like people that go out there and get it, because that job taught me so much. Like in sales, the guy I worked for was very successful. It ended up being such a big blessing because I had like this built-in mentor with it, where this guy that had built this, he was doing like a couple $1 million a year in revenue. And he was running like a big sales organization, and they had a really good training program, really good mindset training. The guy was like the first multimillionaire that I had like close contact with, right? Like all my friends were all broke, you know what I mean? And the ones that were doing well, like they weren't like doing like legitimate businesses. So like all my previous role models that were in my circle, the ones that were doing well, like they weren't necessarily like teaching me like the right things to do, right? They were successful in their own right, but it wasn't like maybe someone whose steps I should be following it. So the Kirby thing taught me a ton. I excelled there. I was so hungry and driven. Like I climbed my way up to top salesman and top producer. And the short version of it is I did that for 9 years. I had my own office for a while, for about two years. I wasn't ready for it. Running a business was just too much responsibility for my maturity level at the time. I ended up going back and working for the guy that I originally started working for. And then I found myself basically towards the end of that was when I met my now wife. We were together for about a year or so while I was still in Kirby. We were expecting our first child together. And with Kirby, I had to travel. We'd go like to different cities for like a week at a time and work. I just knew like I was on like a dead end path. I didn't want to open up my own office. I didn't want to go through what that involved. I didn't want to be selling vacuum cleaners. I already like had been doing that for 9 years. And it's funny, my buddy, JR Piper, I actually just had him on our podcast, REI Allies podcast. I saw him on Facebook, and this was someone I went to elementary school with. And I saw like he was traveling like all these awesome places. Like he was going on these exotic vacations, South America, out to like Asia, like doing just crazy cool stuff. And here I am selling vacuum cleaners, baby on the way. And like I thought he was a real estate agent. And then I was like, wait a second, like, is this something real estate agents do? Like, do they go on like vacation? Like, I thought they were like in open houses and all this. And I hit him up. I was like, dude, what's going on, man? Like, you're doing all this cool stuff. Like, let me in. Like, what's the deal? And he's like, well, I'm not an agent anymore. I actually wholesale houses now. And I was like, wholesale, what? What,
Yeah.
like, what's that? And he kind of just briefly explained it to me. And that ignited my fire of going down the YouTube rabbit hole. So at the time, like the Kirby office I was working for, they had a phone room that was setting our appointments. I was kind of like a lone wolf. I had my own, I was in my car. They would give me the appointments. I go show up to the appointments, but I had a lot of free time driving between appointments and kind of throughout the day where I could, be studying and listening to stuff. And I did that for like probably like about 6 months. I just like dove deep. I started listening to I think Brent Daniels was one, Max Maxwell, Sean Terry. And when I came across Sean Terry stuff, his content really resonated with me. Like his sales style, his approach, all that was very similar to what I was already doing in Kirby. So, and I was like, one of the top producers there. I was like, dude, this guy like knows his stuff. Like the stuff he's telling me is all the stuff I already do, and I know this works. So like I was sold. You know what I mean? Like you didn't have to convince me he was the real deal. And I saw, all his YouTube stuff, and I found out he was in Phoenix. And so my buddy at the time, I didn't know this, he was already like doing very well. Like he had already, owned like probably like a dozen properties, and he was jamming, but he was a one-man band and he completely lived below his means. And like from the outside, like looking in, I was like, man, I need to work for Sean Terry, because Sean Terry's like the guy that's more like the guy I work for. Like in my mind, I was like, I need to find the biggest operation in town, the most advanced person, and that's going to be who I like tie my boat to, and who's going to take me to the promised land, right? And then I'll be traveling the world and doing cool stuff like my buddy. So hit up Sean Terry on Instagram, gave him my story, told him I'm a top performing salesman. I've sold Kirby vacuums door to door. I'll work for free for you if need be. I've been listening to your stuff. I'm sold. I'll do whatever it takes. I'm in it to win it, and we and him messaged back and forth a few times. It led to like an in-person interview with some of his team. Then I met him. Then I met Sean, and I ended up coming on and working for him. And I worked there for 2 years. So we did the first year, it was all local, like in Maricopa County. And I would go to physical appointments just like it was in Kirby. So it was a really smooth transition because I was used to going to people's houses, being there for a couple hours, doing like a presentation. I was used to sitting them down at the kitchen table and getting them to sign paperwork. Like that was my thing. And that's exactly what we did there. So like now instead of selling like a cleaning machine, I'm like getting them to sell their house at a discount. And I was like, yes, like this is awesome, right?
Yeah.
And I had some early success there, right? Like I was nailing deals, but there was also like some early struggles. And just like everything, your perception of something going into it and the reality of it once you're there is like two different things, right? And so like there was growing pains with that. We switched to a virtual model right before COVID. So now we're doing everything over the phone, and there was growing pains with that too. But we ended up nailing that down. Like I had a top month there of 360,000 in revenue, just like generated off of my wholesale deals. And like, you know, I was hiring people, I was training people, I was head of acquisitions there. And me and him ended up getting to a point where we didn't agree on like this hiring decision. It was like kind of a minor thing. But me and him got into it, went back and forth. And I'll admit, like I crossed the line, right? Like I threw some past things that happened in his space in a way that like an employee shouldn't talk to their boss, right?
Okay.
And basically told him, I don't know if I don't know if I'm going to continue here. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'm like, yeah, I need the weekend to think about it. And basically, long story short, he locked me out of the CRM like right after that phone call. And I found out like, yeah, we were parting ways there, right? So I say parted ways, I got fired, right? But I had it coming, right? And I get it. You know what I mean? Like I was basically asking for it. And I kind of knew like that wasn't the ultimate vehicle for me,
Mhm.
right? So went on my own, went on vacation, spent all my money, had lots of fun, did stuff with the family, stopped working for months. And, you know, I still had some money left over. I want to say like I had like maybe like 15 grand like left over. And I was like running my own stuff, doing PPC. And I was like, oh man, like this is getting kind of scary. Like, you know, like what's going to happen? Like if I don't get a deal, like, you know, this is a lot harder than I thought it was. So I ended up started squatting up with some people, and that led me through Brandon Simmons, did some deals with him. Brandon Simmons used to work for Sean, and he still works with him like in coaching capacity. But he ended up getting me some interviews with like some top wholesalers like in town. I ended up kind of vibing with Corey Geary. He was doing pay-per-click ads. He was also doing what's called Novations, which was like a very valuable thing that I picked up from him. And we ended up working together for 8 months, really hitting it off. Corey had like a training mastermind where he was teaching Novations. And I kind of developed a new strategy on how to lock up the deals that was super effective. And we were crushing it. And he was playing all my calls like in his mastermind. So people were starting to like know my name, and you know, I was starting to get like a little bit of like credibility and notoriety as someone that was like, you know, really good closer and great on the phones. And me and Corey ended up, you know, parting ways as well. And when we did, like all the people from his mastermind, a lot of them started hitting me up on social media, like, "Hey, you know, I heard you're not with Corey. Like, what's going on, man? I've been hearing your calls. Like, can I send you leads? Like, do you want do you want to work together?" And I was like, well, as a matter of fact, yeah, I've been kind of looking for some leads, so that would be great. And I parlayed that into creating a like an online 4-week training where I was teaching people how like my Novation process on how I lock it up, my scripts, how to sign the deals. I turned that into like a training product. And really it's been like a great connection tool too, where it's giving the opportunity to work with some like really high level people that, you know, normally I may not have access to, right? Kind of like through just the link of going through Corey, them paying to deal with him, them learning about me. And then now like they want to work with me and be my buddy, right?
Right.
So I've been doing this was like probably about like towards the end of 2021 is when I parted ways with Corey. I want to say like around October. And since then, I've been doing deals with my partners. I've since started my own marketing. I've got cold caller VAs now. We also, with one of my partners, we're launching a call center that actually just went live today. We have our CRM up and running, and they just started bringing in leads. We're doing a program basically to leverage my skills where I'm training lead managers and virtual acquisitions people that are all overseas. They're all level 5 English. And we're going to turn into an army of just like killer closers that we can outsource out to wholesalers like across the world. So that's kind of the big vision on, you know, how I'm trying to provide value to the marketplace, because anybody that's in wholesaling, like hiring and training good acquisitions people and retaining them, hiring, training, retaining, that's like three major pain points.
Yeah.
And it's very time consuming. A lot of people, that's not their favorite thing to do as well. People that are good at, running a business, a lot of times, is more of like a different personality and a different skill set than someone that's really good at training salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of, my goal is to launch that out and scale that out. We're building a mastermind around it, but that's how I got into real estate. And that's kind of where I'm at now. Like I'm doing probably about 10, 12 deals a month since then and looking to kind of scale it out. But I don't really have ambitions to be like a big wholesale operation. I really enjoy the niche of the acquisitions end of it just because I put so much time into it. Hey, give me 1 second, bro. I don't know if you can hear my daughter yelling in the background.
Oh, I can't hear it, but you're good.
Oh, okay. 1 sec. Hey, can someone please handle Millie, please? We would appreciate it. Or whoever's making that noise. Is that Zona? All right. When you have 4 kids, every once in a while, one of them will be upset. So.
Oh, I get it. No worries, man. Well, that's awesome, man. That journey's kind of had some twists and turns, but you're doing 10 deals a month. That's some big numbers, and it obviously has been worth all the different obstacles and things you had to do and maneuver around. Do you think that if you're someone on the outside looking and you have a sales ability, do you think that's the best skill to transfer over into this business? Do you think that is the primary reason you're able to, consistently wherever you're at, provide value? And if not, how do you get into real estate if that's not your strong point?
That's a good question. And so I'm biased, right? Because sales were kind of always my thing. Like my dad was in sales as well. So yeah, like sales is a valuable skill. Now, is it the most valuable skill? Honestly, I would argue no. Like I think the most valuable skill is being someone that's really good at finding the right seats. This is what I found is like the business owners that are running big successful operations, they're really good at finding the right people for the right positions and bringing things together and seeing the big picture.
Wow.
So if you're talking like monetarily, I think that's probably the most valuable skill, because if you can do that, you can find a great salesperson, a great, manager person, great HR person, great marketing person, and you can put together this dream team and build this big machine.
Yeah.
Now, sales and communication skills and persuasion in general, absolutely. Like I would recommend everybody, no matter where they are in life, like if you can heighten your communication skills, it will serve you so well in your personal life, in your business life. It just makes life easier when you're good at communicating your thoughts in a way that's, other people can be receptive to. So I definitely agree with that, but I'm working because look, I have a lot of sales skills. I'm great on the phone, not to toot my own horn, but I've closed a ton of deals. But the things that I lack in with organization and delayed gratification and things like that, the people that I look up to that are steps ahead of me, those are things that they've mastered that I'm still working on. So I think being disciplined and being resourceful are the two most important skills to being successful. You need that discipline, and you need to be able to figure things out, because no matter how much there's always going to be something outside your circle of knowledge that you're going to need to figure out. So I think being able to solve problems on the fly is super, super crucial, and having just an unbreakable mindset, being positive, being able to weather negativity, being able to weather the storm. All the successful people that I've interviewed and just talked to in my regular life too, they're all very resilient, and they've all overcome significant adversity. I haven't met any anyone that I would consider successful that hasn't been to hell and back, like in one way or another, right? Like someone that's had a really easy life or had things handed to them, like, you know, most people don't really respect that. And even the people that it appears that way, they still have faced adversity. It's just maybe different than what we would expect.
Yeah, no, I totally see that. Yeah, it's kind of weird how that works because you can't just have the good thing. You have to, in some way or another, whether it's just through trial and error of the real estate business. I know for me, being a much smaller of an operation, probably 2 or 3 deals a month right now, but it's a weird mental shift going from, because I still work a full-time 9 to 5 job, and I don't know if I completely wrap my mind around the amount of I don't want to sound like soft or something, but like the emotional up and down that comes with like getting a deal or finding it and getting it so close, and then a problem comes up. Like some days, like it just goes wrong, and you gotta like you have to have thick skin sometimes, and especially like once you start to realize like, oh no, it doesn't not go that way. Like there's always gonna be stuff that's just constantly like little fires you have to put out, and then you're like at work doing something, and you're like talking to your boss and all these other things and responsibilities. Meanwhile, you have like a seller calling you on this side of things, and this is going wrong. And like it really takes some, like the qualities you said, it takes discipline, it takes some resilience. How have you managed that, or have you just had a natural ability to handle that sort of thing?
Dude, you nailed it. And like in my training and when I work with newer people and even like people that are great salespeople, like a big part of my training is the mindset part. Because Pete, you're right, dude. People don't understand. Like you think, oh no, just tell me the script of what to say to the seller, and then I'll say that, and then I'll close the deal, and then we'll be holding up a check on Instagram or Facebook in no time. But
Right.
they don't talk about like when you get that call from the seller at 8 p.m. and they're crying and like so like the deal's melting down, like they're trying to back out, or it's a lot, dude. And especially when you're counting on the money, it's this
Yeah.
added layer of like this person's whole life is resting on your shoulders. They're in a meltdown, and a lot of times the sellers are like their life is in chaos, or they have something going on where it's like not a normal everyday situation, right?
Yeah.
So you have all this going on, and then especially when you're starting out, if you got other things going on, it's tough, dude. And a lot of people, it's not, that's what breaks them on the business, is the pressure just becomes too much, and they're just like, dude, I'm out. Like I don't want it. But you're right. Like I look at it like this, is like if you're going to be a professional MMA fighter, you're going to get punched in the face.
Yeah.
And that's the game that we're in. And yeah, when you expect it, then that does kind of soften the blow and take some of the power out. But trust me, dude, no, I don't think you're soft for that. Because there's like nights where I've been like losing sleep and stressing out. And there's been deals that have fallen through that were big deals, and they never fall through at the right time. It's always like when you needed it and you're counting on it and the money's spent. And this is the one, nothing's going to go wrong. And this black swan event comes, and it's heartbreaking. But when you get your heart broken enough and you keep picking up the pieces, then you get this scar tissue where it helps you definitely become this unbreakable savage. And the cure, what I found, the cure to that is to have a full pipeline. Have a full pipeline, have new deals coming in all the time, and expect, okay, a certain percentage of these deals, like in my mind, I'll say like, okay, 1 out of 3 deals, there's a decent chance that something can go wrong that's like outside of my control. Now, if I'm always trying to get that number as low as possible, and I never want it to be above that, right? But in my mind, it's just like if something bad happens, I'm like, okay, yeah, I expected that. That's what happens in this business. And I always make sure that it's something, if it was something that I did that was maybe had I done something differently, I could have affected the outcome. I make note of that and really like feel that pain and try to like embed that lesson in myself. right? But if it's something that's out of my control, like, there's a title issue that can't be fixed. There's nothing I could have done like necessarily to fix that. Then at least like I don't let that. I'm a big fan of Stoic philosophy of look, the things you can control them fully, and the things that are outside of your control, pay them as little mind as you can, and don't agonize over them because it's outside of your control. So yeah, the scale is the cure to that, and also just getting that thick skin of like knowing this happens, this is part of the business. I'm not surprised I got punched in the face. I'm in the boxing ring. Ouch, that still hurt and it still sucks, but I'm not knocked out. I haven't lost the match. Maybe I lost this round of the match, but I dust myself up and fight another day. And I try to take that energy I put into agonizing about that one deal, and I'll put that towards my next deal. And I'll just try to just move on, dust myself off, and not look back. But having that mental attitude, that's the most important. That's everything. Because if you have all the skills, but you can't take the heat, you're done. Like you're not going to last.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree. That's been one of the most transformational mindset things for me, is because the very first deal, you got to go through that. Like on my very first deal, the seller drove to the closing table, changed his mind, drove away. I had to get on the phone with him, like talk with him again and get him to drive back, and then finally signed on like this. I didn't think it was going to work out. And so then that was like almost, I was like, that was insane. I was actually in the middle of taking a final of my last semester at college, and I had to like leave the room to talk to this guy on the phone. So stressful. But then the next deal and the next deal, and you kind of start to build some momentum, and it's almost like an up and down trajectory, but you're still kind of going up. And then once you have that more perspective, you've been able to see it from a little further back view. You can see, okay, I can see where this is going, and then the little hits don't take you off course quite as much. And obviously once you get to where you're at, then you can kind of get in a groove and have systems and processes in place to deal with that sort of thing. Does that kind of sound right?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And you'll see, like, looking back in hindsight now, like even on that deal you're talking about, there was probably some red flags that you would pick up on now that you have more experience. And that's the whole key, is like when you see the boat like veering towards the side of the river, you can make a course correction much sooner. And I definitely am a big advocate of like, the deal is not over until you get that wire in your bank account. So you got to stay on top of that throughout the whole thing, because at the end, that's kind of the most important time too. And that's where things can get squirrely. So yeah, lessons learned. But those devastating losses, that's also how you get I will never do that. Like I will never, like me, I will never use the buyer's title company.
Right.
And it didn't used to be that. It used to be like, well, no, I never would, but if I absolutely have to, then maybe, because there's been times where things haven't gone wrong, but things have gone wrong enough now where it's like, no, it's not negotiable. And if we have to do it that way, this ain't a deal for me. And that's how you kind of learn how to draw the line in the sand. Cause like those hard won lessons, those hit hard. And then that gives you the fortitude too, where you can confidently say like, look, I'm not going down that road anymore. So yeah, I may miss out on some opportunity, but I'm not leaving that door open for that to ever happen to me again.
Yeah. So looking back on what you've done so far and how you've got there, and say you were to take yourself and put yourself at the very beginning again, knowing everything you know now, what would you do differently? What would you, in today's market or today's technology, how would you go about getting from that point to where you are now, but in a different way or the same?
That's a good question. That's tough, dude. Because like, if I could do it over again, knowing what I know now, I think I would have just I would have just believed in myself sooner.
Mm.
Right. I mean, it's easy for me to say now because I guess if I could do it again, I mean, I'd do what I'm doing now. Right. Because that's like what my level of like personal development is at.
Yeah,
But like really, like everything that I went through, like I don't know if I would change anything. Right.
yeah.
Because it shaped me to who I am today. Like, you know, as I was growing in this business, I was also transitioning to being like a family man. Like I met my wife right before this. Like before I met my wife, like my life was much different. I was just living for me. I was just like bachelor style. Like the things that I valued and like the vision I had for my future is so much different than what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's hard for me to say. Like I'm honestly like very not content in the sense where like I don't want to keep progressing, but I'm content in the sense where I'm so grateful for everything that's in my life now. Like I'm not a real materialistic you know person. Like I enjoy like the things that money brings, but like that's not like how I define myself, right? Like I don't need like that status and everything to feel whole. Like what makes me feel great is being free to not work on the weekends and being able to spend time with my family, being able to see my kids throughout the day. You know, I've got a 1 and a 2-year-old, a 7, or now an 8 and a 10-year-old. And like I see them every day, like I work from home. And that like means the world to me. Like that means more to me than if I had some job that paid me twice as much as I'm making now, but I was gone 60 hours a week. Like
Right.
I would turn that down. Like I don't care. Because I'm trying to live my life with the long view of my life is a movie. It's not a video game where I have to die with this high score of money in the bank account.
Yeah.
It's a movie, and I want my movie to be filled with adventure, filled with love, filled with good people, with travel, with experience. And I just want to like make a positive impact on the world. Of course, my family, like I want to sure my kids are set up financially, that I'm around to impart like my values in. And that's kind of like I'm really trying to shift because like before, like when I was in Kirby, like in my mind, like all the things that I wanted were all about money and status, right? That's what was important to me. And like now is like the most important thing to me is like people and experiences. And I really like the other stuff. I don't really like that's almost like when I meet someone when I know that's all they're about, like they're all about money and status and flash and what other people think and all that. Like I don't resonate with that anymore. You know what I mean? And like I don't care like what someone's financial status is. I care about what type of person they are. Like, are you a person of integrity? Do you like what are your values? What do you stand on? Like, you know, I'm all about fitness. I'm all about becoming the best version of yourself. So all my friends and all the people that are in my circle, we're all like we have that common goal of we're all trying to be the best versions of ourselves. And that's the most important thing to me is like progress. So have like this end goal of I want like amount of dollars, like every day is to be a good dad, better in all my categories of fitness, of finances, fellowship, and building a life of freedom. Like if I can hit those 4 things every day and make some sort of incremental progress, and I have like routines that kind of set that up to happen automatically, that's what I consider a successful day. And that's how at the end of that day, I could rest my head on the pillow and feel great like about myself.
Yeah, that's so good. And dude, to kind of speak to your point, doing this podcast, I've been able to talk to so many people that are just, you know, miles ahead of me and super successful. And it's kind of crazy because the people that are doing really well, like, you know, that are really wealthy and are doing a lot of business and they're worth the most money, those are the people that are always extra willing to provide some sort of value or to like come on my podcast with 150 subscribers, right? Like most people would think like, oh no, those people don't have time. They're just focused on, you know, whatever it is that got them there. But I've found that the people that are really successful are always the most kind and the most willing to help out and, you know, provide some value. Whereas someone maybe who's starting to build up and is making some money, but is focused on that, it's a completely different thing. There's like, I mean, even going to the paintball thing with you, like there was so much value and everyone was willing to give and like, oh no, let me pay for this. And it was not ever about the smaller things. It was all about who can give the most. I think that's like a really key point to see if, you know, who's really doing well. Is that's a good indicator of it, I think.
Dude, I totally agree. And like the same truth rings true for me. Like the super successful people, like though they're often the most giving. And I know, like, I'm like, I've got nothing to offer this guy. Like, he's not doing this for an ulterior motive. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have nothing I have to offer him. There's nothing like, you know, that material wise, like, I know guys that have like hundreds of houses, right? It's like, it's not about money anymore. They can buy whatever cars they want. They can live wherever they want. They can go on whatever vacation. Like there's only so much stuff money will buy. And I know that sounds dumb, you know, because I've been broke like most of my life, right? But I've been around people that like, you know, have all this stuff and the stuff like you just, oh man, there's a word for it. It's like a psychological term of basically like what, as you get nicer and nicer things, you just get this higher tolerance for things and you have this new like baseline level of happiness, right? So if a Ferrari every day, if you drive a Ford Mustang the next day, it's like a step down. You're like, Ford Mustang, like I'm used to a Ferrari, right? But if you have no car and you get a Ford Mustang, you're like, hey, I do like convertible. So I heard Dan Brazilian talking about that, like basically how you just get used to certain things. And you'll, and give me 1 second, it's getting like super dark in here. Yeah. So like looking after material things isn't, it only takes you so far, right? You get to a certain level and then it's like, okay, yeah, whatever. And what I've noticed is like really successful people derive a deep satisfaction from helping others, because you know what I mean? Like I've had lots of people that help me along the way. I've also been privileged like to help quite a few people. You know, a lot of people that I've worked with have gone on to like do like awesome things. Like people I trained at Sean's now have their own businesses and they're doing great. You know what I mean? And that I think is like a hack in life for happiness. If you're ever feeling down, if you're ever feeling depressed, if you're ever feeling like empty or anything, find someone that you can help and do something for them. And just like don't expect anything back. Don't do it as a strategic thing. Just do it. And there's like a magic that happens when you're just always throwing these seeds of value out into the world. You're just throwing them all. You're not paying attention to them. You're not going back. You don't have a tab of, okay, I helped this person this day. I'm going to remember that. And I did this, where you're making your list and checking it twice. It spoils it. Like the magic happens when you give and expect nothing in return. That's what opens up the universe to allow great things to happen. Because like I've had lots of people help me out that have no reason to do it. Like I know they're not doing it for selfish reasons. You know, they're just literally just throwing me a bone. But if you become that person too, where you just have this earnest desire for success, I think a lot of successful people, they see themselves in that, right? Like they could look at a young guy like you and say, man, he reminds me a lot of like when I was starting out, you know what I mean? And I think that's why they want to help you. And I think that's also a hack of success, is to be successful basically just means you're able to provide massive amounts of value to people. And I think most successful people that sustain it and also have like a good quality of life, they follow that principle of giving back. And
Wow.
maybe there's rich people that are jerks, but most of the ones that I know that are like that are all about their money, they're not super happy people if you really get to know them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They kind of just like sit in their big house with all their stuff. They don't really have a lot of close friends most of the time, or the ones that they do have, you know what I mean? They're just like them, and they're just connected with them because of what they have and all that. And I don't know, man. I just look at his life as short. We're not making out of this thing alive. Leave a legacy that you could be proud of. Be the type of person that when people talk about how you lived your life, like, you can be proud of that. And yeah, maybe you won't have as many dollars in your bank account, or maybe maybe it'll, catapult you to be more successful than you would have been, had you just been selfish, right? Because giving has also been like a great source, like guy allies. Like I've made some great actions, helped some great people, but I've also received like a great benefit from it too. But I didn't do it for that reason. I knew that would probably end up being a byproduct as we grew.
Mhm.
But my whole thing was like, dude, let's just connect people. Like we're already in the business. We already like doing fun stuff. Let's do fun stuff together.
Yeah.
We're all doing deals. Let's see, maybe there's a deal we can do together. Maybe there's someone that can help me on this tough deal that I don't know the answer to. Maybe there's someone that's dealt with this before. So being able to connect people too, I think that's a super, super valuable skill. And that's one thing I definitely wish I would have done sooner,
Mm.
is got more involved, more connected, and put myself out there at a sooner time. Like, I'm envious of you, dude, because how old are you, bro?
I'm 24 now, a couple days ago.
Yeah, dude. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, dude, you're 24, you're already wholesaling, you already have your podcast. Like, the world is your oyster, bro. And I love what you're doing. And I think that's cool. Like, I wish I would have been there when I was 24. But we all just have our own journeys, and it's all for a reason. You know what I mean?
Well,
So
yeah.
yeah, I think that's a great insight though, of like, people wanting to give back. I think that's so cool. Yeah, because I've
Yeah.
seen like you got some awesome people on here. I was honored when you invited me to be on here. So
I appreciate you coming, and I appreciate you saying that. And like you were just talking about your real estate allies. That's something I dream about, having a group of people that all just comes together and does deals together and goes out on boats and has fun. I mean, like when you think about a job or like going to work in the morning and clocking in versus doing this to provide for yourself, networking with people. Like I feel so much more I don't know what the word is, but going out and hanging out on a boat or going to some meetup and doing the same thing you would otherwise with just other people you would grow up with or whatever, have burgers and stuff. Going to an event that has everyone's trying to help each other, like that's the idea, is to go there and network and provide value. That's just another level, man. That's the coolest thing about this business to me.
no, definitely, dude. It's awesome because when you meet people where your paths are in alignment, right? Where you both have common goals, you have common things, and you're dealing with common struggles. This is like you're saying, like this is a tough business, dude. Like there's a lot of bad things that happen, and it's
Yeah.
hard to explain. Like, you know what I mean? Like I try
Yeah.
to explain stuff like this to my wife, or like my friends that are like 9 to 5 employees, or in a different thing, like you know what I mean? It's hard to understand like what we go through unless you're actually in it. So when you can find people you can connect with, and most of us are super pressed on time, right? This business, it takes a lot of time for most
Yeah.
people, and especially starting out.
Mhm.
So it's like in our free time, like, should I be studying? Should I be like with my family? Like, do I really have time to just go out, have beers with people and stuff like
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Right? Like,
Maybe that's what I was trying to
no.
say.
And like, do I have time to like? Would I like had that not been a real estate meetup? Would I have gone paintballing on that Sunday?
Yeah,
Hell no.
you just perfectly said what I was trying to say. That's how, yeah.
Whereas like I can guilt free go out and have fun, and knowing that I'm like serving, like I'm going to be able to help someone. I'm going to find someone that can help me have fun, and we're building these bonds too, where
Yeah.
when we're hanging out with each other, you build a different type of camaraderie, than someone in a Facebook group or someone I'm in a transaction with. I can actually see what kind of dude is this,
Yeah.
or what what a person is this, male or female. And I think it's good because then we're like, now feeling for him. And then like, like we had our boy there was like the AC, right? He's got his own AC heating and cooling business.
Yeah.
When I hear someone needs an AC now,
Right.
before I probably would have just Googled it, right? But now I'm like, dude, no, I got a guy. He's right here,
Yeah.
and it makes me look good to the
Right.
person I'm referring, right? Like, no, I'm well connected. I've got a guy. My guy will take care of you. I know
Yeah.
this guy's on a high level, right? Because I've met him, I've talked to him. He's got businesses in multiple states. Like he's doing his thing. He's going to serve my person well. I'm bringing him a customer. It's solving a pain point for everybody. There's a lot. You know what I mean? It's not a zero-sum game. I'm losing something. Like we're all gaining. So
Right.
I think that's another mindset of abundance and not looking at when someone else wins, I lose, or for me to win, I need to take something from someone else. I think like it's like a collaborative thing of all this money and all the opportunities served. And I may have pieces of the puzzle to capture all this value that's in the ether, if you will.
Mhm.
But if I keep extending my network with new friends, with different tools, there's more and more puzzles I can solve now because I have all these different pieces and all these different tools that I can call on. Like, okay, now I've got a mortgage guy. Now I've got a guy that does this. I've got a construction guy, a garden guy. I've got a this, yeah, all that. I mean, it's beneficial for everybody.
Mhm.
So I think it's super cool. Like this, I wish I would have found it when I was 24, dude. Like I'd be taking this Zoom call from my rocket orbiting the Earth,
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah,
I,
bro.
I know we're kind of running short on time here, but I did want to get into some tactical real estate advice because I know you do a lot of deals, and a lot of those are with novation agreements. And people do a lot of wholesale deals, and the typical assignment. But that's something that I don't come across quite as much, and it seems like you've gotten pretty good at it. So can you maybe talk about it enough to where it'll spark some interest in somebody where they're going to go down the YouTube rabbit hole or read a book or maybe kind of give them the framework of what that really means to do a novation?
Yeah, absolutely. So novation agreement is just basically one contract with another. So there's a lot of people use this technique. This is the technique that I use. So basically, we get the property under contract. I position it with the seller that I'm going to be selling to third party. And we have paperwork signed where I can now the property on the MLS while it's an escrow. I can sell it to a retail buyer that's using conventional FHA or VA loan. And I can sell it for pretty close to retail, especially if it's in good shape. But basically, you can list your wholesale deal on the market. Everybody says, okay, that's great. But what seller is going to agree to that? Like, why wouldn't they just list it with a realtor? And that's the $1,000,000 question. So it's all about how you position it with them, how you build it up and build tension, and really being able to reveal the value that you can provide. Because the sellers, what the seller that's going to be a good fit for this, what they're looking for is speed, convenience, and certainty. That's what they want ultimately peace of mind. And that's how you get these deals done, by getting really good at building the value, building up some tension, and giving them certainty and that peace of mind. But I'll be honest, there's a lot of stuff out there on YouTube. Like there's Corey Geary has a mastermind where he teaches like novation agreements along with other stuff. Corey Boatwright has a course that he did with Sean Terry where he also teaches the agreements. And then I have workwithwonders.com where I also have my course, my script. I have 20 live recorded seller calls. It's 4 2-hour Zoom trainings. I've taught top sellers across the country and their teams how to implement this in their business. And most of them start getting novation deals within a week or two of completing the training. So it is a very quick thing that you can add to your tool belt. It's just all about how you position it and steps down the line. But deal I sign, unless they have a really short time window or there's an access issue, everything goes to Novation first. I may still end up wholesaling it on the back end, but I'll be able to set the expectation that we are selling to a third party. So you don't have the shenanigans of, oh, I got to get my contractor in here. I need my funding partner, just kind of the half truths and half lies. I'd knock all that out. I'd knock all that out of the way. And during my process, I can also out all the other wholesalers because I explained what a real cash offer is. Like all these cash offers you're getting are wholesale offers. And then I explain what a real cash offer looks like. And then I can knock out all the competition and actually just disqualify them from a cash offer because I'm not going to be buying their house, more likely than not, right? And then I replace it with the concierge service, which is the all-in-one solution. They get a dedicated team to deliver them the result on a silver platter, essentially.
Dude, I'm like going through my mind, all these leads. I got to call them back. I feel like I've lost all these deals.
Heck yeah, dude.
That's awesome.
Dude, that's how I was when I first heard about it. I was like, wait a minute, no, this don't sound right. But it was easier for me to buy into because I saw Corey doing it. And they had a little bit different acquisition strategy, right? So there was some stuff that was falling through the cracks. But once we kind of dialed that in and found like the best way to build the momentum to get the yes, like I can convert something in Novation at a much higher level than most acquisition people can do like a wholesale deal. So it's like there's definitely a process that you can follow that makes it easy. And that was the big thing, was for it to be repeatable. Like you don't want a process that is highly reliant on an individual's personality or an individual's skills, right? Because then it's tied to that person. So you want like the best sales techniques are something that are highly repeatable and are simple that can be taught. Right. That's what, one reason McDonald's is so successful is they have all the systems set up where you can take a 16-year-old kid, throw him in a McDonald's uniform, and he can look at the fry maker and like, no, like it's like an easy 1, 2, 3, like everything is replaceable. You have all the positions already ready to fill. So yeah, Novations are awesome. And if you guys haven't, all wholesalers, if you haven't heard about them, you can go to workwithwonders.com. I do have some free material on there. You also go down YouTube, and check that out. But you can definitely feel free to reach out. I do have a course available on it. And I also do private team trainings. If that's something you're interested in. So yeah, there's another option.
All right. Everyone that watches this podcast, I know I put it out there for free and everyone can just tune in on YouTube, but nothing's for free. So the homework or the fee today is to go watch all of your stuff. Go tune into Rich Wonders podcast. Go look at his content. Go get his course. Do all that. Learn about Novation agreements. That's the homework for everyone who's listening right now.
Right on, bro. Appreciate that.
All right. Well, to kind of wrap this thing up, I appreciate that insight. That's some really good stuff. Just that alone right there could probably make someone $1 million. So I appreciate you sharing that. And the question I would usually like to ask is, what's a good book that you would recommend to someone in real estate, sales, just business in general?
Probably my number one book I would recommend is Grant Cardone's Be Obsessed or Be Average. I think I derived a lot of value from that, and that's a big mindset. But Think and Grow Rich is another one. Outwitting the Devil is another good one. I like Be Obsessed or Be Average because it really spoke to me, and I read it at a very pivotal point in my life when I was just out working for Sean Terry. It was actually a required read for me to work there. But I would say for anybody in the business, I would definitely read that book because that will set you up of the right mindset. It basically, the whole book is about need to be obsessed with whatever you're doing. You got to do it to the full amount, and you've got to just be crazy about it and have a passion for it, because that's the only way you're going to break through all the obstacles. is you have to just be unstoppable, and you have to turn, like, if you have an obsessive mind, it can work against you, where you can do a bunch of negative things like I did, like past at one point, or you can take that same obsessive nature and you can apply it to good things. You can apply it to progress, you can apply it to providing value, and you can provide it to, apply it to, like doing great things. So I think everything starts with the mind, and the more you can develop yourself internally, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, the more you can invest in yourself, that will pay the highest dividends of any other activity you can do. Because we are always the weak point to our success. We are always the bottleneck, right? What level of personal development is always going to be the ceiling to how we can go. Because we'll reach a certain level of success where our personal development is the only thing holding us back. We have some limiting belief, we have some limited capacity in some field, or we are lacking some sort of skill or understanding. Otherwise, we'd already be doing better. You know what I mean? So I would say just tell people on yourself and take personal development lightly, because that's the best time and money you can invest in yourself, is to build up yourself.
That's awesome, man. Couldn't agree more. Well, listen, man, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I think you just packed this episode full of value. I think anyone that listened to it is going to be much better off than they were before they listened to it. So can't thank you enough. Where can people find you? Social media, YouTube, all that good stuff. What's all your information there?
Yeah, thank you, brother. And I appreciate you for providing, value by taking time out of your day to have all these guests on and put the podcast out. I think that's great, bro. People can find me on Instagram. It's wonders.buys.houses. You can, my website, workwithwonders.com. If you want to link up with the REI Allies, it's reiallies.com. We also have our Discord group there, but we want to build that out to national thing. Have like leaders in different cities and states around the country. They're all linking up and doing things with each other, right? Like the REI Allies brand is not about just me and Ahmad. Like we're just like promoting this idea of collaboration over competition, helping each other, doing cool stuff together. Like that's what we're about. It's about the idea of that and putting more to. So like there's opportunities for anyone that wants to be involved with it. Like it's not a for thing. Like there's no, like we spend money, like we don't make money in it. You know what I mean? So like there's definitely opportunities for anyone that wants to be involved. If you have a heart for people and you have a passion for real estate, and that sounds like you'd want to be involved in, definitely link up with us. But like we would love, like for a couple of years from now, maybe we're doing some meetup like for the REI Allies where we're all flying down to the Bahamas for a week. You know what I mean? All the national people, everyone that can make it out there, we're going out there and we're renting some mansions and partying on the beach and, having a mastermind down there and all talking about our enormous businesses. Like that would bring so much joy to my heart to have this be like a big thing that's just like touching like thousands or even, hundreds of thousands or millions of lives, right? Have it really be a substantial thing providing value. So
I think that's where it's going. From what I've seen so far, I can tell it's only going up, and I'm grateful I was able to be at the last event. And everyone go check out reiallies.com. And Rich Wonders, everybody, get wealthy.
Cool. Thanks, Brennan. Appreciate you, bro.